Sorry about the guy mowing grass outside if that sound's coming through. Wanted to talk today a little bit about books, specifically field guides, and what you should be looking for in books. Now, when I was a kid, we had a whole bunch of these. They're good for 10-year-old kids' interests. These are the Golden Field Guide series. I got a slightly newer one. They did get better over the years from this version, but still very limited on their information. Just not the best at identifying things. Their maps are kind of cartoonish, and the ones that provide range maps. And like I said, they're good for, you know, getting a kid interested in something. They're nice that they fit in your pocket, but not very good for that. I tend to pick up used books a lot. Try to stick to something that was in the last couple of decades at least is usually a good thing to keep in mind. Sometimes information has changed slightly, but you know, generally the best starting point would be something like this. This is a Peterson field guide. The Peterson field guides are good general knowledge. They've got decent maps in them. They usually have, depending on which one I'm trying to flip to it, they usually got color photos in there. Even this one's a little bit older, but you know, they're decent quality. You know, they go back for years and years and years, but they're generally good quality starting point. As far as flowers and that, a lot of times the field guides are set up on color more so than what family something is. And when you're just starting out, sometimes that's good. You know, I'm still in kind of a transitional changing phase from where I'm picking something out because it's got a yellow flower, or whether I'm picking it out because it's in the aster family or it's in the mustard family. You know, it takes a while to learn those differences. Maybe you don't want to jump there to start. You just want to kind of figure out what things are and put them together. I mean, I actually used to read through these things when I was a kid. That way, whenever I was out in the woods and I ran into something, I'd have some sort of clue what it was. Another thing that's good, these are great. They're usually like a little key you can take in your pocket. I probably should carry these around more because I tend not to carry stuff because I'm into so many things. I'd have to carry a library, but you know, they're limited on their scope, but they give good line drawings and good information on how to you know, how to kind of key it out. Does it have this? Does it have that? Does it have the other thing? That one's for winter. This one's for trees in general. You know, it talks about the different leaves. If it's got this kind of leaf, probably this. This is also, you know, they're limited by range. Going into something more site-specific is often a little bit better. This is something that, you know, it's widely used. It's got real good keys for just going out. And, you know, I'll try explaining keys in depth in a different video. I just don't think I have time within a 15-minute time limit to go down that rabbit hole too far. But a key is basically like a little flow chart. Does it have this? Yes, go to this step. No, if it's no, you go to that step, and it'll be another question. You go through the questions until you figure out what it is. But Newcomb's is very widely used. It does not have photos though. Very good key. You know, it's got a couple color plates, but you know, it's mostly line drawings. I tend to prefer ones that have photos rather than drawings, even though some of these are color. Sometimes things, you know, they look different in 3 dimensions. I'll just say it that way. And then sometimes even like these things can be good within their limits. They have good photos. This is something I picked up on snakes of the Carolinas and Georgia. And, you know, it's something good local. I was down there on vacation. It's not like I'm there all the time where I wanted to pick up an actual, you know, $50 textbook on them, but good brief description, and it only covers the things in that area, but it does cover them well as far as identifying them. So, but then you've got more site-specific ones. This is Trees of Michigan. You know, it would have everything in that area. The advantage of books like this is they often cover rarer or more limited in range species that may be in that state that would be left out of something like Newcomb's, or it would just be a footnote in Newcomb's, or it might even be left out of something that was meant to cover the entire country. So, you know, the tighter the region that the book is on, the more detailed it's going to be on that region, and the more it's going to cover, you know, odd subspecies or variations, or, you know, local species that don't have a very wide range that might just be a footnote without much of a description in the other books. Also, shout out to the Ohio Biological Survey has some books you can order. They're kind of rudimentary looking, but they're very good on giving you an idea of what occurs within the state of Ohio. They've got a lot of stuff on plants, animals, geology, all kinds of stuff. Very great resource. You know, their stuff's for the most part reasonably priced, but it does cost money. And this right here is kind of like the Bible for what does or doesn't occur in Pennsylvania as far as plants. It's always good. I've got one on reptiles for Pennsylvania too. I just couldn't find it at the moment. But getting something state specific that covers in depth everything in your state, or maybe your state and one adjoining state, or something like that, is very much recommended as you get into this a little bit more. Another thing, and you know, even the crappy little things, I find something for $1 in a thrift store and I don't have it in my collection already, I buy it. A lot of times I buy older things that may have different descriptions or whatever. Sometimes, like I got a book on grasses, goes more into detail on how to identify grasses. I've got one much better than this and newer than this too, that's just the Northeast region. I actually met the author of one on pitcher plants. There's only one pitcher plant native here, but I mean, look, it's an inch thick. There's not that many species in the United States, but if you really want information on something, sometimes going and getting something specific on a plant or a particular family of plants is great. And here's another one. And I mean, this isn't the best book overall, but when you add it to the other things, this is one of those things I picked up in a thrift store just to look at, and it goes through all kinds of pine trees, which is good because it covers ones that I might find here as an exotic that somebody planted and it went wild. That's one of the things that kills me. I don't know how many times I've been stumped trying to key something out. Like, what the hell is this? I post a picture online and find out it's some sort of a horticultural plant that escaped into the wild that just would never be on my radar. But the other great thing about this is it has its own unique key. If I can find it here. Yeah, that's not the page, but it has a key that goes really in depth on identifying pine trees by their needles alone. And that is the reason why I think this was worth everything that I paid for it, because, you know, that key by itself is enough to, damn, I can't find it. But yeah, it goes really in depth. I mean, she's a little bit opinionated about what pine trees she thinks are good and which pine trees she thinks are bad, but, you know, very, very informational. So sometimes, you know, something like that will help. It'll augment the information you get in the field guide and your state-specific books sometimes to get these family-specific or species-specific books. I mean, I've got like a bookshelf full of these things. But at any rate, that's the brief rundown for today. Like I said, best place to start would be with something like a Peterson field guide, and then get something to back that up that's specific to your own state or your own region. Doesn't necessarily have to be big and thick like this, but if you're looking for trees, where did it go? Like this one on Michigan trees, perfectly fine. You know, this big hardbound thing is, you know, it's all the plants. It's ferns and mosses and trees and everything else. But yeah, that's it for that subject. Talk at you on the next one.